The King's Avatar, Chapter 1467 Breakthrough. Audio source, wushaworldaudiobook.com. Chapter 1467 Breakthrough. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. The battle was a blur to the viewers. This team competition had too many changes happening too quickly. Neither side had a fixed strategy. In other words, when facing each other, there was no single path that could go all the way. It could only go back and forth, with both sides constantly adjusting to each other's reactions. Who was winning? Who was losing? In terms of offense, Blue Rain had the greater initiative. Happy's formation was somewhat in disarray. However, the more attentive viewers may have realized that Blue Rain had started with the tailwind advantage, but now? Not really. Swaksar's curses wouldn't be strengthened by the gale. In fact, Swaksar was positioned more defensively. Their healer, Zhu Jingshi's Soul Speaker, was also positioned more defensively. The impact of the wind on Blue Rain's offense was practically zero. On the other hand, Happy's Boundless Sea was taking advantage of the wind for his attacks. Yu Wenzu had Swaksar move to not give Fang Rui any opportunities to attack him. But Boundless Sea simply waved his hands in a different direction and shot out a chi bullet as fast as a meteor. Zheng Xuan's bullet rain dodged in a flurry. After getting sent flying by Boundless Sea, he had paid great attention to his existence. That guy knew how to put on an act. He looked like he was moving to attack Swaksar, when he suddenly turned and fired at Bullet Rain. Zheng Xuan wanted revenge. Bullet Rain fired back at Boundless Sea. But because of the effects of the gale, Bullet Rain's gunshot. Ha! Fang Rui laughed in the chat. Boundless Sea slid his palms across. Chi Blade. Chi Blade was a difficult-to-react to skill in the first place. The gale only made it even harder. Zheng Xuan didn't have time to think. Before even seeing it come out, he had Bullet Rain roll. Did the Chi Blade come? Zheng Xuan didn't notice any changes in his surroundings. Suddenly, Swaksar stumbled and nearly fell to the ground. What's going on? Everyone was dumbstruck. Lord Grim, Dancing Rain, Steamed Bun Invasion. None of them had attacked Swaksar. That meant it could have only been Boundless Sea. Don't underestimate me. Fang Rui's Boundless Sea had intentionally kept the same posture as when he had sent out the Chi Blade. His two hands weren't facing Swaksar. But from the wind, they realized what had happened. Boundless Sea had accounted for the effects of the winds in his calculations. He knew the Chi Blade would fly diagonally from where he was aiming towards Swaksar. The strong winds could shift the movements of the Chi Blade, but it could not disperse the Chi itself. With the wind, the Chi Blade's momentum was even stronger. It was just that this sort of calculative ability. This was clearly the map that Blue Rain had chosen. If their Chi Master, Song Xiao, had been the one to make such an accurate shot, it wouldn't have been too surprising. But Fang Rui had been completely invisible before. The broadcast had given him very little screen time. At this moment, the director went back to check Fang Rui's movements from before. He realized that Fang Rui's Boundless Sea hadn't just been moving. He had been sending Chi out as he moved. Fang Rui had been measuring the effects of the wind on his Chi. His accuracy wasn't without reason. However, figuring out the wind in such a short amount of time couldn't be done without talent. The invisible Fang Rui and Boundless Sea immediately became the star of the show. Amidst the winds, Boundless Sea assumed his dirty pose, half crouching. His hands were raised to his chest, gathering swirling Chi from the surroundings. Fang Rui's incomparably dirty Chi Master suddenly looked to have the air of a great scholar again. This was Chi Master level 75 skill, a skill that had a cast time. It could be charged At this point, Blue Rain no longer had time to interrupt it. Even so, they still had to do something. If they couldn't interrupt it, they couldn't just let Fang Rui's Boundless Sea keep charging it, right? Thousand Chants in full bloom. Before Blue Rain attacked, Boundless Sea released the skill. It was only one palm, but all of the chi that had accumulated burst out, similar to Flash Burst. However, Flash Burst only a single burst of chi, while Thousand Chants in full bloom was like a flower. Numerous bullets sprayed out and then scattered throughout the field because of the wind. Bullet Rain, Swaksar, and Soul Speaker were all within this rain of chi. Thousand Chants in full bloom originally didn't cover a large area, but because of the wind, using the word scattered to describe these bullets of chi was perfectly appropriate. Of Blue Rain's 3 characters, Swaksar was in the center of the meteor shower. There was no place for him to dodge. The bullets of chi along with the added force of the wind forced Swaksar back. The other 2, Zhu Jingxi and Zheng Xuan, had to give up what they were doing before to dodge the attack. For a moment, Fang Rui's Boundless Sea had stopped all 3 alone. It was only for a short moment, but these opportunities didn't come by easily. Boom boom boom. The sounds of cannon fire suddenly became even more compact. Bullet Rain and Swaksar had been pinned down in succession. Sumo Chung's Dancing Rain had suddenly shifted targets. Her target was no longer Troubling Rain, but Lu Hanwen's Flowing Cloud. Lu Hanwen wasn't too bothered by it. He had noticed the attacks and dodged them. Steamed Bun Invasion now had room to breathe and immediately became more boisterous. Leo, let me fix you up. Steamed Bun shouted in the chat. He had received Ye Zhu's orders. Once he found an opening, he would immediately attack Huang Shaoshan's Troubling Rain. The crowd booed. Who are you? You say you're going to fix up the Sword Saint. Even if the battle had taken a turn, haven't you heard the phrase? Having an unfair advantage. The crowd couldn't admire Steamed Bun's delight at all. But they could see that with Steamed Bun Invasion moved towards Huang Shaoshan, the connection between him and Lord Grimm had been re-established. He's all yours, Steamed Bun. Ye Zhu immediately called out in the chat. Afterwards, Lord Grimm tried to retreat. Leo, do you dare to fight 300 exchangers with me? Steamed Bun challenged, while throwing a brick towards the back of Troubling Rain's head. Huang Shaoshan had been checking his surroundings. When he saw the brick, he had Troubling Rain tilt his head. It seemed like he had no intentions of letting Lord Grimm go. But then, pie. Not a brick, but a slap on the face. If it was a brawler's slap, Lord Grimm could do it too. He had pretended to retreat. Taking advantage of Huang Shaoshan dodging Steamed Bun Invasion's brick, he suddenly came out with a slap. As soon as the attack hit, the combo began. With a hook, Troubling Rain was sent flying into the air. As for the follow-up attacks, not even the fastest mouth could narrate every attack. Unspecialized Blitz. WuxaWorldAudio.com. The myriad manifestations umbrella kept changing forms, keeping Troubling Rain tumbling in the air. This combo couldn't last that long though. After all, Fang Rui's Boundless Sea couldn't just spam Thousand Chants in full bloom. Blue Rain's 3 players had been positioned scattered apart. No matter how well Fang Rui took advantage of the wind, he couldn't keep all 3 under control. Bullet Rain's rescue soon arrived. Huang Shaoshan used the opening to escape. But what should they do next? For a moment, Blue Rain didn't seem to have a direction. Happy's broken formation had now been reformed. Lord Grimm and Steamed Bun Invasion were together alongside each other. Sumo Chung had the long-range support. And Wen Yi was in the middle as the healer, getting protection from 2 sides. And although Fang Rui was deep in enemy territory alone, he had the wind on his side and had nothing to fear. What should they do? Quite a few viewers were looking at Team Blue Rain's chat. At this moment, Blue Rain should have some idea on what to do, right? Their previous plans seemed to have been broken apart one by one. Some people looked at the health on both teams. After comparing them, they saw which side had won the exchange. Coach Lee, what your thoughts? Pan Lin asked Li Yibo this question. It's still too early to say, but what Blue Rain does next will be crucial to how the rest of the match plays out, Li Yibo said. Of course, Li Yibo immediately added, it's also important to see how Happy is able to take advantage of this situation. Sure enough, Happy didn't disappoint Li Yibo. After breaking apart Blue Rain's tactics one by one, it was time for their counterattack. Even though Huang Shaoshan's troubling Rain had been rescued from Lord Grimm's combo because of his teammates, Happy had no plans of letting him escape. Troubling Rain became Happy's focus point. Lord Grimm's attacks became the lead for the entire team. Take my fist, Leo. Steamed Bun continued to shout. Previously, he had been ridiculing Blue Rain for teaming up on him, but he had no problems teaming up on Huang Shaoshan. Blue Rain's fans had already started booing. They were worried for Huang Shaoshan. But at this moment, Lu Hanwen's flowing cloud broke through Su Mucheng's zoning, his greatsword coming to the rescue. Meteor form. Flowing Cloud's greatsword, Flame Shadow, was fast. Along with the explosions from behind, he blazed across the field into the enemy lines. Wow, this kid's pretty impressive. Steamed Bun was put in a difficult situation because of the attack. They couldn't bother trash-talking Steamed Bun. Lu Hanwen could actually be considered a senior. They were amazed that Steamed Bun could actually dodge that sudden attack. If he had been wielding a lightsaber. Li Yibo spoke halfway through before stopping himself. He realized that he seemed to say those words a bit too much. It was like he was criticizing Lu Hanwen for choosing a greatsword over a lightsaber. In reality, Lu Hanwen used his greatsword to great effect, accomplishing things that couldn't be done by a lightsaber. Li Yibo only felt it was a pity that the attack speed was slow. Kid, I admire you. You've at least got more guts than that, Leo. You're a worthy opponent. Steamed Bun continued to chatter. Fuck you, bastard. I've endured long enough. Come here and let me hack you into pieces. Insulted without even being in the conversation, Huang Shaoshan finally couldn't bear it anymore. End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 1468. Double image. Audio source. wuxia-world-audiobook.com. Chapter 1468. Double image. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Was he enraged? Seeing Huang Shaoshan rant so angrily that he didn't even bother to use punctuation, many people thought this way. But just as many weren't fooled at all. Huang Shaoshan's fighting existed on a completely separate channel from his trash talk. His trash talk didn't reveal any of his cold, brutal, opportunistic style at all. So, seeing him yell in the chat that he couldn't endure Steamed Bun any longer, at least half of the audience didn't believe him all. It looked like Steamed Bun didn't believe him either. He completely ignored Huang Shaoshan, and instead focused on controlling Steamed Bun invasion to fight Lu Hanwen's flowing cloud. This was simply too normal of an action. The opponent in front of him was strong. How could he simply turn around to go and fight someone else just because they yelled something? But everyone who saw this scene couldn't help but think, Steamed Bun looked down on Huang Shaoshan and didn't want to bother with fighting him anymore. What was up with that? Those who thought this didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This was such an important playoffs match, with such a fast rhythm, so many changes, endlessly wonderful. But as soon as the scene focused in over here, how come it seemed like it was hiding this unseriousness? Were these two people really treating this match seriously? Even Blue Rain's own fans couldn't help but begin to question their Sword Saint. And what was the Sword Saint actually doing? After shouting at Steamed Bun, Huang Shaoshan's Troubling Rain actually dropped the opponent in front of him and prepared to kill his way towards Steamed Bun invasion. He lost his cool. Seeing this, countless people began to shout. Shock, disappointment, delight and disaster, all sorts of emotions were pulled forth by this one action of Huang Shaoshan's. Such a strong retreat was obviously unwise. Even the chaotic Steamed Buns, in these conditions, didn't lose the opponent in front of him, Lu Hanwen. And Huang Shaoshan, who was supposed to be more mature, actually did such a childish action, and the opponent he dropped was Yi Xiu. An opponent even scarier than Lu Hanwen. As expected, Yi Xiu didn't miss this opportunity. Lord Grim immediately went for the opening that Troubling Rain exposed as he forcefully retreated. At that moment, Swordlight violently burst forth. Formless Phantom Blade. The level 70 Blade Master skill, the skill that still dealt the highest damage, Formless Phantom Blade. Troubling Rain retreated and went after Steamed Bun invasion, but before he got there, the skill was already activated. And then, one step, one turn. The opening that Troubling Rain had exposed while retreating was suddenly completely covered by Swordlight. Oh! Blue Rain's Sichuan Stadium was instantly filled with the cheers and hollers of Blue Rain's fans. They were simply too moved because their core, their ace, their idol, their Sword Saint, hadn't let them down in the end. He hadn't lost his cool. This was a trap inviting the gentleman to enter the funeral urn. But Yi Xiu wasn't without defense. Facing the sudden turn and explosion of Swordlight, Lord Grim swiftly retreated, the sword chasing him. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Ding. Whoosh whoosh. The interwoven arcs of Swordlight flashed through the air, punctuated with the occasional sounds of contact. Huang Shaoshan's Formless Phantom Blade was simply this fast, so fast that no one could see how he was actually attacking. It seemed as though it was just that one moment, Swordlight burst forth, dazzling the eyes, drawing attention, and then in the next moment, the light was gone, and all was still. It looked like it was all over. Troubling Rain, Lord Grim, the two characters stood in their original positions. What happened? While too many people were still in a daze, Lord Grim suddenly rushed forward. And Troubling Rain didn't move. Huang Shaoshan actually just stood and watched as Lord Grim came at him with a double stab, impaling his body. And he still maintained that pose. Formless Phantom Blade, the pose after retracting the final slash. Huang Shaoshan had unleashed the final slash of Formless Phantom Blade, but he hadn't managed to hit the target. An opening. This was undoubtedly a huge opening. Many Blade Masters, if they felt they didn't have full grasp of the situation, would rather give up on the last and most powerful slash of the Formless Phantom Blade. Huang Shaoshan unleashed this slash, but this slash hadn't managed to hit. Any Glory player could stand up and tell Huang Shaoshan what that meant. So how could Huang Shaoshan not know this principle? And with his skill, how could he have let this happen? This was why everyone was so shocked by this situation. The doubt was so strong that even the televised broadcast decided not to play the currently unfolding battle at full screen. Instead, they split to a small window, and in slow motion replayed the Formless Phantom Blade exchange between Yi Xiu and Huang Shaoshan just now. What kind of exchange had it been? Even though it was slowed down to a quarter of the speed, everyone could still clearly sense how fast it was. Formless Phantom Blade was that fast. But Yi Xiu's responses seemed to be even faster. Lord Grim, with almost minuscule movements, dodged the slashes that this skill sent at him one after another. The tip of the sword, the blade of the sword, it all seemed to go right past him, without a single one landing. The audience watched as one slash looked like it was about to hit, and they felt their hearts leaping into their throats, and this was watching a slow-motion replay. Then, they saw that the myriad manifestations umbrella in Lord Grim's hand suddenly elongated, and that slash that seemed undodgeable was parried just like that. He parried a formless phantom blade. Aside from dumbstruck, was there any more suitable emotion? Everyone had only ever seen this kind of thing in performances before. Two pro players, both using formless phantom blade, and then ping-pong clashing again and again, until it looked like there were flowers blooming around them from all of the sparks flying. But that was practiced beforehand, where both sides knew from what angle and with what speed the other player would come at them. Yet now, this was the playoffs battlefield, and the one behind the formless phantom blade was the number one among blade masters, the Sword Saint. And his formless phantom blade had actually been parried by the opponent. After that, Lord Grim continued to retreat, continued to dodge. His one parry, of course, couldn't interrupt the formless phantom blade attack, and the skill steadily reached the end. Just the fact that he'd been able to last this long was already breathtaking. No matter how they looked at it. Though, there was no way for him to dodge or block the next slash, and this next slash just happened to be the most powerful, final slash of the formless phantom blade. The sword lifted, carrying an incomparably sharp sword light. Those sword shadows that had been all scattered earlier now seemed to gather and accumulate upon the blade, and the final gleaming blade of light flashed forth. What was that? And then everyone looked at where the sword light had traveled, and they blinked, or rubbed their eyes. Had their vision gone fuzzy? Everyone thought this because in their view, in that one moment, it looked like there had been a double image of Lord Grim. An instant later, it had vanished. The scene rewound and replayed in slow motion, this time at 1/8 the speed. This time, everyone saw clearly. Shadow clone technique. It was shadow clone technique. Lord Grim's two hands moved so fast as to be undetectable. He'd completed the seals in the span of time of the already incredibly fast formless phantom blade. What kind of hand speed was that? Everyone searched for a number on the screen, hoping it would tell them, but there was none. No number. They could only rely on their feeling. But for this sort of inhuman thing, how could an ordinary person rely on their feeling? The shadow clone technique didn't send the original body far away, so the real and false bodies stood very tightly together. The final slash of the formless phantom blade arrived. And at 1/8 speed, everyone could finally clearly see that the instant this skill had activated, the clone had been broken by this final slash. At 1/4 speed, everyone finally identified this double image that they'd mistaken for their eyes going blurry, because it really had only appeared for an instant. And even at 1/4 speed, it had only been there for a moment, allowing everyone to realize that that was the only way he would have been able to dodge that slash. Normal movement couldn't be made faster with faster hand speed. Only the hand seals of a ninja would, with an increase in hand speed, release a skill faster. Ultimately, Yishu succeed, using a method that surpassed everyone's imagination. WushOurWorldAudio.com. And no one could forget that Yishu was an old general of 10 years. This sort of unbearably fast hand speed, wasn't that supposed to be something that only the youth had? The final slash of Huang Shaoshan's formless phantom blade hadn't landed, but at this time, no one felt that he had made a mistake. He had already done very well, using blade after blade to attack the defending Yishu, forcing him back until he had nowhere to dodge and nowhere to block. What happened afterward couldn't be called Huang Shaoshan's fault. That sort of transcendence of natural human limits, how could that be treated as a miscalculation? It wasn't Huang Shaoshan's fault, but no matter what, his troubling reign once again fell into an unfavorable situation as Yi Zhu controlled Lord Grimm to unleash another flurry of attacks at him. But those who had just been watching the small window reply found that for now, they couldn't re-immerse themselves back in a normal battle. That moment, that instant, they still weren't sure if it had even been real. They need to watch it a few more times. In comparison, the live audience was better off. The screens suspended at the center of the stadium were large enough to replay that moment over and over. But in truth, they didn't replay it for too long. After all, this was Blue Rain's home stadium, and that wasn't a thrilling moment that belonged to Blue Rain. But just once was enough to render the entire audience speechless. Sichuan Stadium, at this moment, was dead silent. This was a moment that belonged to Happy, but even Happy's die-hard fans sitting on the west side were so shocked that they forgot to cheer. Beyond all belief. That was perhaps the only way to describe that scene. Pan Lin and Li Yibo, in the broadcast, were reciting those words as well. But on the battlefield, a chaotic rain silently fell at this moment. The initiative that Yi Zhu had gained with his unbelievable controls was immediately broken by this silent, chaotic rain. No matter how exciting, he just dodged one attack. Quote, in Blue Rain's channel, Captain Yuan Zhu spoke calmly. Huang Shaoshan's calm was to help him clearly and accurately seize killing opportunities. But in Blue Rain, the one who was truly as calm as an unmelting glacier of 1,000 years was still their captain. End chapter. The King's Avatar, Chapter 1469. This is the strategy. Audio source, wuxia-world-audiobook.com. Chapter 1469. This is the strategy. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Seeing Yu Wenzhou send this message in the chat, Sichuan Stadium was suddenly filled with thunderous applause. When Huang Shaoshan's valiant formless phantom blade was broken by the opponent like that, never mind the players on the field, even the watching audience couldn't help but feel unsettled. But now, one sentence from their captain was enough to reassure everyone. That was right. It was nothing more than dodging one attack. No matter how clever the method was, the final result wasn't anything special. It was simply a dodge. It was like kicking a goal in soccer. There would always be those super difficult, inimitable shots, but with regards to the match itself, no matter how exciting, it was only one goal and 1 point, nothing more. Don't pay it too much mind. Keep your spirits up. Even the Blue Rain fans watching from off the field understood the meaning of their captain's words. The chaotic rain splashed upon the ground, and even Yi Zhu couldn't continue to control his character under the confused state. He could only try to get out of the skills range as early as he could. Sorry, Su Mucheng said in Happy's chat. Swaxa didn't have any close-range opponents covering him, and she was the only one who could have used an attack to disrupt him. But she hadn't noticed the casting of this chaotic rain. From a certain angle, it could be called her mistake. Don't worry, Yi Zhu replied. He didn't have any intent of blaming anyone. The launcher had the longest attack range of any class, and often had the ability to target any opponent during a battle. But did that mean that every attack interrupt would be left to the responsibility of the launcher? Of course not. Even a warlock, a character that was important to target and interrupt, could not always be interrupted in this kind of chaotic battle. Leave him to me, Fang Rui shouted in the chat. Blue Rain was avoiding the location occupied by Fang Rui, and by this time, they had spread outside of the Gale area, trying to go as far away as possible. Fang Rui felt a bit sad leaving behind his advantage. But right now Boundless Sea didn't serve any purpose by staying in the wind area, so he also controlled Boundless Sea to travel with the wind and flew like a shooting star towards Swaxar. Huh? How come you're not crawling anymore? Quote. At this moment, a message from Steamed Bun suddenly appeared in the match chat. What? Blue Rain's players all had a double take. What was that supposed to mean? And then, very soon, they saw Fang Rui reply, "Crawl your face." Fuck. Everyone was shocked. Steamed Bun's mockery didn't discriminate between friend and foe. He would mock even his own teammate. But while Happy's two players bickered, their characters on the battlefield were cooperating. Steamed Bun Invasion, currently fighting Lu Hanwen's Flowing Cloud, suddenly turned and tried to leave. Lu Hanwen, of course, wouldn't let him go easily, but Lord Grimm, who had managed to escape from the chaotic rain, was just passing by. The myriad manifestations umbrella waved, and with a clang, it parried Flowing Cloud's attack. Guard. Lord Grimm used the Blade Master skill Guard. Flowing Cloud's silver weapon Flame Shadow was extremely heavy, so his attacks had much knockback. After Lord Grimm blocked, the force of the attack sent him crashing in the direction of Steamed Bun Invasion. What a mistake! Pan Lin shouted as the two characters slammed into each other. Players on the same team couldn't harm each other, but because Lord Grimm was sent flying by the force of Flowing Cloud's attack, this crash was considered an attack. It wouldn't have been a big deal if the opponent had purposely used knockback to blow the opponent away, but this was Yi Xiu controlling Lord Grimm to voluntarily help cover Steamed Bun Invasion. Flowing Cloud had hit two birds with one stone, which was truly somewhat embarrassing. No, wait. Quote. But at this moment, Li Yibo suddenly shouted. After being hit, Steamed Bun Invasion staggered, but because of it, his charge suddenly accelerated. He and Fang Rui's Boundless Sea were trying to use a pincer strike against Swaxar, but because their plan was obvious, Blue Rain was already on the defensive. Yu Wenzu was paying attention to the movement speeds of the two characters, and Zheng Xuan's Bullet Rain was already opening fire to block Steamed Bun Invasion. Zheng Xuan chose to block Steamed Bun because he saw that Boundless Sea was still in the wind zone, and attacks in that direction would be affected. Originally, it had all been calculated very clearly, including Lu Hanwen's Flowing Cloud catching up from behind to coordinate and close in. But in the end, because Yi Xiu's Lord Grimm passed by, it was all blown to pieces. Steamed Bun Invasion, with a sudden burst of speed, broke through Bullet Rain's cover. Yu Wenzu, who had been controlling Swaxar to change positions, was clearly unprepared for this abrupt change. Prepare your face. Steamed Bun once again gave a shout before attacking. Steamed Bun Invasion arrived in front of Swaxar and threw a sand toss his way. What Yu Wenzu feared the most was such moments of unpreparedness. His awareness, reaction, judgment, they were all sufficient to respond to whatever happened. But always, in the last moment, when it was time to turn his awareness and reaction into controls, he was too slow. Yu Wenzu had long since grown accustomed to this awkwardness. He was unperturbed, and already began calculating for what would happen after he was hit. But this time, a gold-colored shield of light suddenly surrounded Swaxar. Steamed Bun Invasion's Santos, after hitting this shield, was swallowed into nothing. Swaxar didn't take any damage, nor did he lose his sight. Holy Shield Technique. The Paladin skill. When Yu Wenzu was faced with a situation he couldn't handle, his teammates knew as well. Zhu Jingshi didn't begrudge using his skill, and Soul Speaker cast Holy Shield Technique to protect Swaxar within. Unlike the Chi Master's Chi Guard, which didn't move once cast, Holy Shield Technique was a protection centered around a character and would move with the character's movements. Yu Wenzu was already in the process of dodging in the aftermath of the attack, but with this holy shield technique, his controls went more smoothly. Yu Wenzu didn't slow down as a result of this. The holy shield technique was equivalent to giving a character some extra health. It couldn't completely block all of the opponent's skills. For example, some of the grappler's grab attacks would throw the character along with the holy shield technique. It wasn't like the golden shield would prevent the grab, so Swaxar still had to dodge. Yu Wenzu couldn't let his character be controlled by the opponent. As for where he would go, Yu Wenzu had already calculated. There was no safe zone in a battle, of course, so he wanted to go in a direction where it was convenient for Blue Rain's players and characters to support him. As for where Steamed Bun might intercept him, he swiftly calculated those as well. Here, Yu Wenzu chose a direction that was inconvenient for Steamed Bun and was good for cooperation with the Blue Rain players. But Steamed Bun's view didn't even glance his way, he just continued charging straight forward. What was he doing now? Yu Wenzu didn't understand Steamed Bun's plot. But it also didn't interfere with his own escape, so even though he didn't understand, it was better for him to first just get as far away as he could. Swaxar dodged to the side, and Steamed Bun Invasion really didn't attack him at all, he just passed right by Swaxar just like that. Yu Wenzu's heart jumped as he suddenly realized something. Alarmed, Swaxar turned around, pulling his camera view, and as expected, Steamed Bun Invasion was charging straight. Over there, Fang Rui's Boundless Sea had adjusted his movement direction. The true target of these two's pincer attack wasn't Swaxar, but Soul Speaker, Blue Rain's healer. The audience members with the omniscient view didn't react much faster than Yu Wenzu. WushAWorldAudio.com. It wasn't until the thing actually happened that there were shouts of surprise. Li Yibo's brain just wasn't enough. He had started as a pro player, playing in countless real battles. Later, he became a professional commentator, watching countless battles. But in Li Yibo's memory, there had never before been a match where the rhythm was this fast. How long had this battle lasted so far? It had barely been a few minutes, right? But everything was happening so suddenly. It was like being on a speeding train. For any match, whether the home or the away team, there would always be a general overall strategy they followed. But in this match, up to now, Li Yibo had yet to figure out what the main goal of either team was. This match felt like two enemies meeting randomly in the heavenly domain, neither side having prepared beforehand, and then breaking out into a fight. All of the responses followed from the immediate, real-time changes. All strategic thoughts were formed spontaneously on the field. What was going on? Li Yibo was truly lost, completely lost. In this match, maybe the yelling in the chat was a bit unprofessional, okay, but right now, had the two sides prepared strategy beforehand? What were the methods they'd prepared to win this match? Especially Team Blue Rain. This is your home match, your map. Did you not think beforehand how you were going to use it? The offense and defense is so fast that Blue Rain has no way of using their home field advantage. Quote, at this moment, Pan Lin suddenly exclaimed this sentence, and Li Yibo felt as though he suddenly saw the light. What did you say? Li Yibo cried out. Pan Lin, alarmed, thought that he had said something wrong. The fast offense and defense prevents Blue Rain from using their home field advantage. Li Yibo repeated the sentence to himself. So far, aside from predicting Happy's path at the very beginning, and then attacking Happy from the advantageous position in the center wind zone, Blue Rain hasn't really used the map. Pan Lin said. You're right. Li Yibo nodded his head sharply. He figured it out. The two sides didn't have a strategy. How was that possible? This was a playoffs match. If time permitted, no amount of preparation was too much. Who would slack off? Blue Rain had used the map from the start, attacking downwind and instantly scattering Happy's formation. Their opening was successful. Then what about Happy? Happy's strategy, Happy's battle plan for this match was what everyone saw now. Play fast, play chaotically. Using a fast and changing rhythm, keep Blue Rain's hands and feet tied, make it so that they had no way of using wind zones on this map as they had practiced. Both sides looked like they were lacking in preparation, turning this into a mess. In reality, Blue Rain had prepared, but they had no chance to display it. Happy. The situation right now was what they had prepared for. Their goal was to chase victory in the midst of chaos. End chapter.